welcome to the Lounge Podcast, episode 18. Today I'm here with Kite and Shonen Lester. Hey guys.
Hello.
Heyo.
Awesome. How's everything been? All good.
Good.
Life is wonderful.
I spent today learning how to stream.
Oh yes, I saw the video and I think it seemed like the audio seemed pretty fine, so that's really good.
Yeah, actually, the audio seems like audio actually does work, but
Cool.
I just haven't plugged in a mic yet.
Awesome.
And I'm just working out how that system still just like experimenting on how that system works. So probably don't expect streams right away because I'm just taking baby steps at the moment. Probably a bit of shameless advertisement. If anyone interested in seeing these when they go up, my YouTube handle is Shonen Lester.
Actually, I can leave the Actually, nah, that's a good thing because whenever you're on here, I'm like, okay, where's your Twitter? Where's your? Oh, you ain't got them. Cool. So I'll do. To remind myself as well, I'll put your YouTube link on there. So yeah, definitely check out Johnny Lester's.
Okay. That's the end of my shameless advertisement.
Yeah. Awesome. But yeah, today, the main topic I have on discussion is heroes, or basically what is a hero. I guess since it's my topic I brought up, I'll try to set the scene or just introduce why this came to mind. So I've been recently going back on some forums on like some writers' websites. I've just been kind of cruising there. I don't know. I started cruising there recently, and I was going for one, and they were talking about I think different story structures, and I think the topic of the hero, the hero's journey. So that kind of got brought up. And they're like, yeah, okay, the hero's journey is about heroes and everything. So some people saying, oh yeah, that structure's outdated. It's no use now. It's outdated. Blah blah blah. I'm like, huh? And for me, I was like, okay, interesting, because where I've always seen, not even just the hero's journey structure, but any story structure it's just that it's a structure. It's not really like it can be applied to a lot of stories because it's an observation of stories rather than it being something that you have to use to make a story. But then after that, I think the question of like what a hero is kind of got brought to the forefront, because they were like, I think their take on it was the hero journey is outdated because it's all about magic and getting special swords and slaying dragons. And in my head, for me, it felt odd, or it felt interesting and just odd to me, because I always understood it as this is just a structure of how stories were done. Like, this was an observation of how stories were done back in the day, true, but a lot of that, I've always kind of had it in my head as like a good hero's journey story is basically a coming of age story, because it has a protagonist, or the hero, go through a journey, learn, like they have potential, but they're not quite there. They're in a status quo, and they look through a mental and through certain trials and tribulations. They learn to tap into that potential to help, I guess, reach, to help get an elixir or find a treasure that can bring back to the people and help improve their lives, as well as improve their own. Like, if they find something to improve their lives and come back and bring it back to the people and improves their own. And that doesn't have to be, the dragon doesn't have to be a smog sitting over like a treasure hoarding a treasure. Hey,
Donna's joined.
Hey, Dawn, how's it going?
Wonderful.
Yeah, perfect timing. Was I'm literally just getting into the topic of like the main topic of like what is a hero. So I just
awesome.
Yeah, so I'll just quickly wrap up. So I was saying, like the dragon in that, for example, doesn't have to be a big ass dragon guarding treasure. The dragon to the treasure could just literally be someone's job interview. Like there is a guy getting in the way of the treasure the person wants to get, that will help improve their lives and their family's lives. The community doesn't have to be a community; it could be the family, and they now have to use their skills and wits to try and convince this guy so they can actually get money, hence the treasure, to improve their lives. So I've always seen it like, so I never actually felt like it could ever be outdated based on that. But it was just really interesting when I was talking to some people about it, and I was just like, no, it's outdated. And they even talking that the save the cat ones is more up to date, but it's getting a bit outdated. Is that is that the right way to like? It's
yeah,
really
it definitely isn't
store chapter.
Definitely the wrong way to think about like the hero's journey as being outdated, because the thing is like it's not like an ubiquitous rule. It was, if I remember, like someone will have to correct me on this, but it was more of an observation as to themes of stories that could be basically applied to, like not just like a select number, but also like a good chunk, but a wide spectrum of what are defined as heroes, and sort of the journey they go on to become heroes. If I remember, it's the will of adventure, the denying it, the power up, the death, rebirth. One example. So I think the obvious example, a lot of people that the hero's journey has become ubiquitous to is the original Star Wars film. Because that's what was applied to Luke. But I think there's another, because when I was first introduced to the topic, that was actually one of the, like it was years ago when I was at school. One of them was Star Wars. The other was The Matrix with Neo. And yeah, like you can apply the hero's journey to the journey of Neo in the first Matrix movie. So I think like it's less. It's to quote Barbosa from Pirates of the Caribbean. It's more guidelines than actual rules.
Yeah, I love that.
It doesn't mean it has to be followed to a T. And you can sort of like, because like the idea is like, what is a hero? And in the terms of that can like mean so many things. So in like in say like an adventure novel, the hero is more or less the guy or the girl that the adventure happens around. So I think of the few books I've read, I'm actually gonna say like Quint from the Curse of the Glomglozer. He was the hero of that book. He wasn't like this mythical like power. He wasn't this like ostracized child. He was the son of a sky pirate who was made an apprentice by the most high academe, and you just see his sort of journey in this in like the city of Scantafrax, where he would then sort of unravel the mystery of what his teacher's doing, which then ends up, as I've said, with the Edge Chronicles in particular, they have like proper nightmare fuel. So it's hard to, but in the context of like, as I say, I think a hero is like more, because I think protagonist is definitely more of an accurate word for like a lot of novels, simply because like they're not, you can't argue with them, because again, like heroes are subjective. Like just because someone in that world thinks someone's a hero doesn't mean everyone's going to. So like take Luffy for instance. A lot of people would think he's a hero. To the rest of the world, he's a pirate, and pirates must be brought to justice. And for the world government in particular, he's where the story is now. He's becoming one of the biggest threats to their existence. So, as I said, like I think it's difficult to sort of fully tag a hero. That's why whenever I talk about the main characters, I always call them protagonists, because I think like my personal view is hero is a bit too
Yeah,
subjective.
I think the word hero and protagonist do get muddled up when it comes to we guess with the language when we come to talking about like the main character, and I guess most of the time,
Yeah.
to be fair, most of the time it can be the case of this guy is seen as a hero in his story, and because it's most times you're following, because half the time a hero can be a matter of perspective of which side you're looking at the story and which side you're following.
Yeah.
Most of the time, not all the time.
Of course, unless it's like a
Then.
unless it's like a superhero where it's a bit more clearer. It's a bit more clearer.
Bit more clear cut, yeah.
Say like Spider-Man. Like he's a hero. Like everyone like, regardless of what Jonah Jameson will write about him, everyone in New York will consider him a hero, and you do see him is someone who would always put himself out to save someone.
Yeah.
So
I'd
just
say,
to
like,
kind
yes,
of just to kind of throw my hat in the arena for a minute.
Yeah, go
as
ahead.
far
Okay.
as far as the hero's journey is concerned, like we did mention that it is definitely more of an observation, but I kind of think there is a little bit more to it than just being in a bit of a simple observation. More so than I think the hero's journey, on top of being kind of like a bit of a mole that people like to ascribe, it really is just emblematic of just the human spirit and the journeys that we go through. Because what is life if not a series of challenges or ebbs and flows where we have these moments that kind of put us in a position where we need to grow and need to adapt. So when you think about that, the hero's journey becomes kind of like a symbolic showcasing of how life works regarding its struggles, the troughs, and of course the moments of triumph. So in that sense, I don't really think the hero's journey can ever really be played out, mainly because it's probably the most emblematic method of showing off what life is like for most people. Or rather, even for those people who may have been born with like a silver spoon in their mouth, or who are probably a bit more privileged than others, they can have their own internal hero's journey, or they can have what some people can call the degeneration journey, where you start from the top and then you slowly but surely you start to lose things. But once you go into that conversation, though, you kind of have another thing. So if a character is going through the degeneration side of things, are they still the hero of the story? Well, let me just pose that question to you. Do you think that person is still a hero in their story?
So I would honestly say it really depends because so for everyone, I know there's a phrase of how you have the idea of everyone's the hero of their own story, but that isn't really true. Everyone's just a protagonist of their own story. That being said, a lot of people will misconstrue themselves as heroes or believe themselves to be heroes, even if they're doing things that we consider villainous. It really depends on the values and the thoughts and the attitudes that someone was not only brought up with, but those that they ascribe to as well. So, for example, there are probably a lot of people in like times in the past, people who would have hidden refugees, people who would have condemned the same people. Both people on both sides are, even if it's not by your moral compass, equally as valid as each other if they were to claim that they're heroes in what they're doing, because one of them is following what their government wants them to do, and the other one is doing what they believe is right. The thing is that the definition of what a hero is flexible, mainly because what we consider a hero is informed entirely by two things, which is your upbringing, i.e., what your society and what your family teaches to you,
Your
and also your
culture as
innate
well,
values, which you
basically.
pick up later. Yeah. So, for example, our definition of a hero has changed a lot, and I say our when I say our, I mean like just generally in Western media, because well, that's what most of us consumed at least at some point. So, for example, in the past, being a hero meant being very muscular. Think about the big bad superhero, big bads against superheroes in the 80s. These guys were huge. They were muscular. They were strong. They were stoic. They knew what they had to do. They delivered a very straightforward message. I will fight for good. This bad guy is bad. Gonna
Truth,
dispatch of him.
justice, and the
But
American
now,
way, basically.
exactly, and you have the idea of having being a red-blooded American, being a proud Brit. These ideas of patriotism aren't seen as positive nowadays. If anything,
Right,
a lot of people will
because
see these things with very kind
They're
of
being questioned now.
imperialistic, nationalist tendencies instead.
right, and
And nowadays,
it's because of the world that we're living in now, where we kind of have to really sit down and analyze these traits. Because patriotism by itself is not inherently a bad thing, but what ends up happening is that unchecked patriotism can
blind faith,
definitely
basically.
lead to rampant unchecked nationalism.
yeah, definitely. But it's also the idea that nowadays being able to challenge authority is seen as something which is a good thing. It's seen as a heroic trait. There's a reason why so many times when we're trying to, we're trying to redeem villains, we get them to see the wrong in the regimes that they follow, or even the regimes that they're perpetuating. Think about it. In one of the best villain, kind of villain, I guess, redemptions of all time, Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender. One of the biggest things that makes him realize how much he's fucked up with following Fire Nation ideology and following what his father and his whole family has taught him is seeing the impact it had on Earth Kingdom citizens. We show these things. Him becoming a rebel, essentially, was what we now celebrate in society as being a hero. But that
Right.
depends on what society you're in. Because if you're in a conformist society,
You're
somewhere
going to
like, for
see him as the
example,
villain because he is fundamentally broken from the system. So now he is very much an outsider in that regard.
yeah, he would become more of maybe even an anti-hero, an anti-villain, depending on what context you're looking in. So I
Mhm.
would say that the definition of hero, because of how subjective it is on what culture you're in, and also the types of beliefs you hold, is that it's very hard to use the word hero and have it be something that everyone agrees on. Because as much as it might be easy to pretend to say, oh, someone who saves puppies is a hero, there's someone out there who will believe that guy is a villain. And it
Well,
might seem crazy to us to say that, but it's true.
and the funny thing about the term hero is that the way how we use it 9 times out of 10 really just kind of leans into those perceptions in the first place. But when we go back to the literary definition of a hero is basically the main character in literature. Pretty simple and straightforward. So because of that definition,
The numbers
and
gets a
much
bit
like
muddled
Don
up, I guess,
mentioned,
because of that. Yeah.
that exactly. This is where things start to get muddied up. Because like the other day, there was a discussion that I saw the other day where people were discussing whether or not the Punisher was a hero or an anti-hero. You're not going to believe how heated that discussion got when someone mentioned, no, the Punisher is a hero. This got everyone furious because they're thinking to themselves that someone who outright goes against the law to kill and maim potential police officers and those who maintain order, they see that as a bad thing. But let's think about this for a second here. The Punisher storylines over the years have tried to draw a connection between corruption on the streets and the police that enable it. So if we're talking on a classical level of the Punisher going after law enforcement as well as other criminals, you could see him as an anti-hero in that sense. However, when we know that the institutions that have failed to keep things in order allow these criminals to kind of grow and perpetuate, what do you think happens when someone takes up arms against them? Do you really think we can end up calling them an anti-hero when they're actively going after the source of the problem too? Can we really call them an anti-hero or an anti-villain? Seems to me that we're still in the definition of playing by a hero by everyone's terms at that point. So when that person flung that argument out, it turned into a case of it's a little hard to see the Punisher as just a black and white anti-hero at this point. Because like also again, like Don mentioned, this is really going to depend on the context. But when we're going with all of that context in mind, despite the methods the Punisher uses, it becomes difficult to consider them an anti-hero at the end of the day at that point.
But
Yeah.
does it really work like that though? Because the entire point of having an anti-hero and an anti-villain is the fact that they're inherently not black or white. They are already grey. Their morality is not as cut and straight, cut and dry as most heroes or villains are supposed to be. That's why they're in the anti-villain or anti-hero category in the first place. I
But
think
that's
that thinking
but that's
that
another but that
anti-villains
but
or
that's
anti-heroes can be black and white is
Yeah.
kind of reductive actually, because
Yeah.
yeah, that's
they're
true.
inherently nuanced roles to be in. So, for
But the
example,
thing
someone like the Punisher, he goes after the police officers. The thing is, the police officers are perpetuating a cycle, but the they are the enforcers of what is wrong, but they're
Mhm.
not the system itself. They are a symptom of the problem.
Right.
If you are trying to kill cancer, killing the cells outside is going to maybe slow it down a little bit. But
But
at
it's
the end
not
of the
gonna
day,
kill it
the thing in the
outright.
core is not going to get rid of the issue.
Nope.
But
At
even
that
if
point,
he was getting rid of the issue at the root, it really depends on your level of like your
Yeah,
beliefs and
you
your
should have to depend
morality.
on that. Yeah.
If you believe that killing can never be justified, he can never be a hero in your books. If you
exactly.
believe that killing is always justified, he is probably a hero in your books. If you think that he sometimes kills the wrong people, sometimes kills the right people, he might be somewhere in between. It really
Mhm.
depends on what you think. But at the end of the day, I would say that he is an anti hero no matter what, mainly because, I mean, no, he's an anti something no matter what, because I
Right.
think the hero or villain really depends on what your own
Yeah,
thoughts are and what his own actions
because
are.
overall,
But I would
he's
definitely
definitely
say that he doesn't fall into hero or villain.
yeah.
Yeah,
Nah,
because
yeah.
me personally, I can't really consider Frank Castle or the Punisher a quote unquote hero in the traditional sense myself. The thing is, most heroes by definition, even though we do say that anti-heroes do have something of a gray morality, I would argue that even heroes, I mean, even anti-villains can still have well, hold on a moment. I can still argue that Frank Castle does have a clear definition of what is good and bad. So it's really his definition of what is good and bad that makes him such a complicated figure to begin with, because he knows clearly what evil is. But his method of stamping that evil out, that's where we start to kind of come to blows. So defining the hero and the anti hero simply based on how clearly defined their morality works, that gets even rockier depending on, again, how they justify these things. So on one hand, I definitely can never see Frank Castle as a hero, but the crazy thing about his morality, despite how morally gray it might seem on the outside, it's scarily clear cut in his eyes. The moment he knows the system has failed, and since the system has failed, it is also complicit in the issues that he deals with on a regular basis. So in this sense, his morality on what is good and what is bad becomes very clear cut in the sand. Not much of any flip flopping on his end.
So would you say that to have a character be classified as either an anti-hero or an anti-villain,
Mhm.
that they need to have some level of confusion about their own
No,
morality? Because I feel like you can be still quite cut and dry about it, as in the character
right.
themselves, but
Yeah, yeah, the
at the
characters
same
themselves.
time,
I
their
think that
morality to the audience, or maybe by the
yeah.
way it's presented, might come across as grey.
Right,
That makes
because
sense.
like that's what I'm going at. Because it's not necessarily a matter of them being shaky or flip floppity with their morality. I think where things start to get black and white or grayish is when it comes into blows on how we can see things. Because as far as Frank Castle is concerned, he's doing the right thing. This is a good thing. As far as I'm concerned, I think his methods are a bit too extreme for my liking. It's kind of like you are sitting in a room with people who basically they share the same opinion as you as far as a lot of things go, but the trouble is they just have different methods of going about what they want, and that's where the moral gray perception starts to come in. There's some aspects of what they're doing that you're fundamentally uncomfortable with, and what they're doing tends to put more of what you consider good scruples into the trash. So while what they're pursuing seems to be a good thing for everyone, the destruction that they're causing along the way is a bit harmful or inherently incompatible with the future they may be chasing after.
Yeah, I think what it just says about that is
So,
because there's such grey area. It makes there's an argument to be made from each person's perspective on whether what they're doing is right or again just like it could just be the method. Like a lot of people could agree. Oh, okay, this guy's an asshole and he should be get rid of. Did you have to do it like that though? Because it's in such a grey
Right.
area.
Yeah.
There's so many different interpretations of how it could have been done, and you could actually sit and argue that half of them could have been right, half of them could have been wrong. You know what I mean? Like, but then at the end of the day, because he knows what he's about and what he's doing. As far as he's concerned, he's locked in. He's not being confused about it. He knows exactly what he's doing, and
Exactly.
because he's playing on a field where he's not really playing with the government, and he knows that this in between, this underbelly of stuff that's causing the issue, and knows he's tackling that. And because there's a chance of him hurting somebody who's innocent. I haven't actually checked do teams in the punishment, but I'm pretty sure there might be some case where he might have ran into someone who's probably like he maybe wasn't as guilty as he thought. Maybe, possibly. I can imagine. I could be wrong. But because of that, that's what I guess leaves it open to everyone's interpretation. I can imagine some people like, oh yeah, the guy he's doing what he's doing is great. Yeah, he's a hero. But overall, he's definitely an anti-villain when you really get down to it. When you look at it as a whole, but when you look at it from
so can I just ask you guys a question as well?
Sure.
I was just going to say, so do you think that part of the difference boils down to essentially the ends justify the means and the means justify the end kind of difference? Do you think it's that boils down the difference between the two characters?
That plays a massive role in how a lot of this works, yes. Because the Punisher, like I mentioned, is a very the ends justify the means. But then you have the opposite spectrum where it's like, there's some lines that we fundamentally must never cross. Because the moment we cross that line, it's not a matter of us being no better. It's like, we are literally perpetuating the same cycle we are trying to break. And
there's a lot like I think like Batman on the opposite end of that spectrum would
Batman
be like
doesn't
Batman.
play a little bit. He's definitely a hero, but he does play into that. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Right.
Because I think this is like one of the Dark Knight. What is it? The Gotham series. No, the Arkham series. Arkham Knight.
Are these the games?
Really really played on like Batman sort of prospect of not killing anyone and sort of what that sort of ended up leading to, like with the thing that had constantly been haunted by the Jason Todd.
Yes, for
example.
Jason Todd.
Jason Todd.
Yeah, the Red Hood incident.
And then also Barbara Gordon, who can never walk again, and this was because he would never kill he just would not kill the Joker, even though he knows.
Because in this sense, even if you don't end up crossing the line, the hero is left with a very uncomfortable dilemma. Sometimes when you don't cross the line, you run into this danger of you're indirectly perpetuating the same system. Because what's funny about the Batman thing is this subject has been brought up several times, but I think the animated series has probably dealt with it in probably one of the most compelling manners. There's an episode where he's kidnapped by his entire rogues gallery and forced to serve a trial for the beatings he's dished out on them. During that trial, they're trying to get the viewer to realize that think about how many times Batman has thrown these guys behind bars and how many times they keep getting out and doing the same thing over and over again. Oh, hold on a minute, please.
Well, yeah,
sorry about that. I was saying, so Batman in this situation kind of has a very uncomfortable reality where it's like he's doing the best he can to keep Gotham clean, but the problem is that the villains and the situation, it's just going to repeat every single time. More people are going to suffer, more people are going to get hurt, and of course, in the case of Jason Todd, more people are going to get killed or traumatized.
Yeah, so this is because it's like and something actually the new Spider-Man 2 does actually well, where it becomes a sort of dilemma, but actually shows that where it sort of ends up paying off with, I think, the theme of it being second chances. And there are some like really good side quests. I won't spoil it, but it's one centered around Mysterio, which you do as Miles, which actually ends up like a really strong. Which actually sort of ends up being a really strong. But yeah, it's that sort of the dilemma of, and like, can these people ever change? And in the case of Batman, especially with most of his villains, the answer is no. A lot of them just, when they get out, they do some horrible things. More people die.
So
but
because it starts becoming a question of like why repeat the cycle? I guess that's kind of like the
but can you? But at the same time, can you bring yourself to actually take their life? And like, I think you mentioned the Avatar.
Yeah, I was
The
talking about Zuko
Zuko, I
earlier.
believe,
Yeah, the final, specifically like Aang, near the end of the series, where he was being preparing to fight the Fire Lord. I forgot his name. Aizu?
Ozai.
Ozai. And it was just in the prospect that he will have to, with him being like unwilling to kill him, despite Zuko saying, "I know my father. You have to kill him. There's no other way to."
I mean, everyone was telling him it, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Literally
even his
everyone.
past
Even his
lives.
past
And
lives.
Yeah.
I think this is like,
And the reason,
Yeah, like
reason-
even the other airbender avatar literally told him, you need to kill him as well.
and
Yeah,
that mainly
but,
just
like-
comes down to the fact that, as far as the avatars are concerned, the avatar does not belong to himself or herself. They belong to the ultimate cycle of life. So at this point, regardless of how Aang might feel, whatever opinion he had was irrelevant in the grand scheme. Because from a pragmatic level or a utilitarian level, taking out the Fire Lord just made sense. But now we're left with another problem. Just because it's the right thing for quote unquote life or for the cycle, should our hero really have to it's a lot
to ask.
yeah, and it's a lot to compromise on, especially when a hero has clearly defined morals. And if they involve not killing someone, then what happens then? Can they still consider themselves a hero? The world might consider them still a hero still. But Aang's perspective, it would be an ultimate betrayal of his beliefs. So in his mind, he's no hero. He's no savior. He's just as
Well,
bad
if he
as
were to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Yeah, it's definitely a very debatable topic.
Yeah, because it
I think it really just comes down to like personal preferences. So, because as I've said like at the beginning, I've come to the point where I will not call the main character a hero. I will refer to them as protagonists.
Likewise, like
I feel like it's a more safer word, because protagonist is essentially the center of the narrative. It doesn't mean
the person
necessarily
we're
they
following.
line to either being a hero or a villain.
it doesn't bring up morality of that character. It just brings up this.
Right.
This is you
We
following,
just we just know that we're following them, and we know that there is an opponent that they have to deal with. So this really just comes down to the fact that the term hero really has gained the connotations that it's gained over the past couple of years or centuries even. So when we have the
I
term
was going to say, it's probably been millennia at this point.
hella longer. I'm just being serious at this point. But what I'm getting at mostly, really, I try not to use this term myself when I'm doing my writing. Hell, one of the major themes that I try to deal with in general is just what happens when we use the term hero so loosely, and then what ends up happening to those who have the title. Because the term hero is, in some cases, depending on who you ask, dehumanizing, because it barely really takes into account the character of the person involved. There is a character, but it's very rarely the person. It's more like the idea that this society has of this person.
Yeah, it's who people say they are, not who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like you, sir, are a hero. Whatever you feel about it doesn't matter. We already know that you saved the world 50,000 times. Whatever personal struggles you got going on in the head, the people are probably never going to know that, and they're probably never going to care. But what they are going to care about, are you going to be able to get their cat out of the tree?
Yeah, it does get really subjective, because like again, like one person's hero could be the other person's villain, and then just also like I feel like, because I think I had a question earlier, because I think we kind of touched upon it though, but I felt like, well, beyond just the morality and everyone's perspective on what a hero is, I feel like another thing you can get close to what a hero is does their deeds help benefit the people around them and the world as a whole, with the least negative connotations, in general, because I think that's one universal thing a hero should represent is, does their deeds beyond them doing it for maybe themselves or their family, does it help the most amount of people, or at least not affect the most amount of people whilst mitigating negative effects to the least amount of people. I think that's like, would you say that's another good measuring stick of what a hero is in the general sense?
That definitely gets
I would
into
say it probably isn't, to be
utilitarianism.
honest.
Yeah, and I can agree with Don on this one because this is where we get into utilitarianism, and this is where things get a little bit messy. Because a good example of this is Fate Zero's protagonist,
Yeah.
Kiritsugu Emiya. He has the same ideology that you just mentioned, basically. This idea of trying to do the least amount of harm, but Kiritsugu's ideology is so extreme to the point where if he is in a position where there is a boat full of with 1,000 people, but then there's another boat with 800 people, he has the ability to save at least one of them. But he knows that if he saves one, the others will die. Kiritsugu has no hesitation. Yeah. He has no problem sacrificing all of those people to save the 1,000, because in his mind, the more lives that are saved, the better things will be. But it sounds fine on paper, but the trouble is we still have the dilemma of this man is all too comfortable to kill someone else or millions others if he believes it will lead to a better outcome on a numbers basis.
Yeah.
Well, that's what makes him pretty cool, to be honest. It gives him a really cool grey aspect, doesn't it?
It really does, and it's why he's one of my favorite characters in any medium. Like, I acknowledge he's flawed and he's probably not the best person, but at the end of the day, he has a clearly defined morality that you can see start to finish. And even though his methods are cruel, if not borderline sociopathic, it's very hard for me to tell you that Kiritsugu is fundamentally a terrible human being. I see a man who's only trying to do the best he can. Now, would I do half of that stuff? Probably not. But do I understand where he's coming from? Absolutely.
Yeah, the case where you can with Kiritsugu, even if method, you can see the logic behind it.
Yeah.
It's cold, it can be cruel, but at the end of the day, there is a man in there who is just fundamentally torn up inside with how he has to make these decisions for himself. Yeah. And even if you might not jive with it, at the end of the day, the one thing about Kiritsugu that is always going to be clear, no matter how many times you watch a series, he never really grew up from the phase of being that child who wanted to be a superhero. He never grew up beyond that phase. So when he is given the opportunity to be a hero by his definition, it's no surprise that depending on who you ask, that morality of his seems very juvenile. Because of course it is.
Yeah. No, so I like because I remember correctly when he was asked that question the first time. It's like, so like there's 1,000 people on a ship, one of them's gonna sink, and I think it's split in two or something like that. One's gonna sink. What are you gonna do? He said, okay, I'll just get rid of the ones with the least people in there. And it's like, okay, cool. This ship that that you saved back in the other one, these get split in two. What are you gonna do? And I think it kept doing that a couple times. It's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So I really like that.
Exactly.
It kind of exposed the fallacy in his own logic. It's like, well, these numbers, like, now I've killed more than I had at the beginning. I killed more than what's still alive. Yeah.
And the other problem with this dilemma now becomes, now that the hero has now defined what their goals are in their head, what does it actually look like in reality? Yeah. Because on one hand, you're trying to save humanity, but your definition of saving humanity might not jive with everybody else's definition of it. Because his ultimate goal was to save the world. But his method of saving people just comes down to maximizing the best outcome, which involves people still dying. So the cycle of evil and death still perpetuates under his system. When he's forced to realize that, he ultimately gives up on that opportunity to quote-unquote save humanity by his own definition, because he's come to realize his method of looking at heroism was fundamentally destructive, almost as destructive as the same heroes he had come to disdain throughout the story. So what I want to kind of want to pose to everyone at the end of all of that is, a hero can have specific defined goals and motivations and a method on how they wish to save people or save the world. But the fundamental issue with it is just how compatible is it with reality and how much does it make sense practically. Because at the end, because the big trouble at the heart of all of this really just comes down to how do we execute it, how does it make sense, and if we can't land on the best possibility, are we still a hero then to ourselves, or are we still a hero to everyone else that happens to be in the room?
Yeah. No,
I mean, I honestly think it really depends. So I was actually, while I was listening to you talking about that, especially with sorry, is his name Emiya?
Yeah, Kiritsugu Emiya.
It's okay.
Okay, yeah, so with Emiya, right? The first thing that came to mind when you were talking about the morality and the numbers thing was actually about spoilers for people who haven't finished Attack on Titan, but Attack on Titan's
yeah.
ending.
Well,
The fact is that a big part of the conflict for everything that happens post season 3 is all about the idea of which people are worth saving, who deserves to live. Because this is a conflict that at this point both sides have decided that conversation is no longer possible, and that the only way that peace could be attained, of which it wouldn't be possible anyway, but that's a whole other can of worms. I mean, literally, the entire ending shows this. But anyway,
yeah.
The only way that peace can be attained is for one side to be completely eliminated. And when you have the difference between to be completely eliminated, yeah. And I mean, with the series, it ended up with 80% of humanity literally being trampled underfoot by the rumbling, which is
That's
insane when you think about it. Like, imagine 80% of us are just fucking
just
gone.
completely gone. Like, and the
Just
thing
gone.
is, like, and it made me think about that old horrific quote from Stalin: "One death is a tragedy, but a million is a statistic." But now,
I mean,
you're
it's
forced-
true because you're going to care more if a member of your family dies than if you hear about 1,000 random people who died on the ship.
Yeah,
Realistically, most people, when they're faced with a moral dilemma, which from a utilitarian point of view, i.e., like the trolley problem,
Yeah,
the idea of saving 5 people over one, it changes depending on the context you give. 5 random people over your best friend. Who are you going to choose?
Who are you? You're
5
going to
random
choose your best
people
friend.
over your dog. It's really up to you.
It really
Some
is.
people will value those 5 random people, 5 criminals, over this one person who's done loads of good in the world. When you give people context, you make them think with their hearts. You don't make them just think with their heads. And I think that's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
Half of the reason why a lot of series they handle these conflicts of having the idea of what is good, what is evil, who is right, who is wrong. Half of the reason why Attack on Titan, as an example, has such a big split. You can if just pose it to any of your friends who have finished Attack on Titan. What side were you on? I guarantee you will always get a different response from people.
You're going
A
to.
lot of people. Oh, I actually kind of agree with Zeke. Oh, I agreed with Eren. Oh, I agreed with like kind of the united front of everyone towards the end of the series, where they just wanted the rumbling to stop and that they just wanted to be able to talk about it.
Or
It
you
really
can just
depends.
say that I appreciated Armin's way of doing it, of trying to understand and try to at least go from a path of knowledge, at least understand where we're all coming from and where we could go. But the thing is, you can also
so having
say
a conversation.
exactly, but you can also say no to Armin's perspective because, like you just said, the point of conversation is going to stop at some point. There's going to be a time where sitting down and talking is not going to be an option for everyone in the room anymore. So this is kind of why, despite how much I dislike what Eren ended up choosing, far be it from me to tell you that he wasn't justified in some shape or form. Hard for me to tell you that.
It's hard to understand his actions because think
It is
about it.
very difficult.
If you had the power to get rid of everyone who is genociding your people, would you not at least consider it?
You're probably
A lot of people would.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people are very, very like everyone has their own things that they're going to morally grandstand on. But one of the easiest things to morally grandstand on is something that you will never have to deal with.
Nope,
And
exactly.
I don't want to get too political, so I'm not going to mention the most obvious conflict right now that's probably the closest related to that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you exactly see where I'm coming from.
Oh yeah.
It is so easy for us to turn around and look at characters in fiction who are perfect reflections of situations that, even if they can't be directly paralleled, can be at least somewhat parallel to real life situations, and look at their actions and go, "Oh, I can't believe he did that." But a good writer can make you understand why they chose that, even if you fundamentally cannot agree to it. I can understand why Aang chose not to want to kill. Well, not chose not to want to kill. Sorry, chose not to go through with killing Ozai, because I understand that he grew up with that ideology. He is the last airbender. His people are gone. If he breaks his ideology doesn't exist. That is such a
Exactly.
big deal for him.
And the big
But at the
problem is
same
that
time, I
that's going to...
understand every single avatar telling him, you need to do this. Because at the end of
Exactly.
the day, killing him is the best way to make sure that this doesn't happen again with this specific man.
And the
So
cool thing
a
about
good
that...
writer is good at telling you, this is what's on the table. You decide who's right or wrong. But
Yep.
at
And the
the end of
cool
the day,
thing...
this is how the story
The
folds
cool
out.
thing about what you actually mentioned there is that you mentioned that the fact that his ideology is very much based on his culture. Because at the end of if he actually goes around with killing Ozai, what we end up having is the last legacy left by his people would basically be thrown to the wayside. He is the final representation of what his people are supposed to be. So if he had Ozai's blood on his hands, the morality of the airbenders dies along with Aang. Because at that point, regardless of how Aang or anyone else thinks about it, if someone can say that the last airbender murdered the Fire Lord, that is never going to go away. What's to stop another airbender from doing the same thing? So that's, again, this is definitely a moral panic for Aang on top of that. And it just really adds to the dilemma that we're discussing overall here. So when we go back, I want to go back to Attack on Titan again for a moment. So, like I mentioned before, like Don mentioned, it is very easy to morally grandstand about struggles that you are probably never going to face yourself. It's very easy to tell you that you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, we should be doing this. The thing about that is we are coming at it from a perspective where we're not the ones suffering from this. If the people within those borders can make that decision for themselves, that is one thing. But the problem is we cannot presume to speak over the pain and experiences of others who are actively the hot seat themselves. So yes, what Eren did was horrifying. Probably about as bad as everything that the Eldians experienced themselves. But it becomes very difficult to really hold that judgment over his head when we knew where the guns were pointed at them the moment the show opened up. They were already in a position where they were going to be crushed underfoot. So now, is the reaction by killing 80% of humanity a bit overblown? Yes, it is. Especially those who had nothing to do with it? Yes, it is. But as far as Eren saw it, there was no other path for him. And what I think some people might fail to realize is that regardless of how quote-unquote badass Eren seemed to be in the final arc of his story, he's still the same screeching kid we saw at the beginning of the saga.
Yep.
So of course a child
He just came across as miserable. He just came across
Exactly.
as someone who was
He was just
absolutely
jaded.
broken and shattered.
Yeah, he was just jaded to everything at that point because
Exactly.
he's known too much, seen too much,
And you can't really blame him.
Yeah,
It's very difficult to do it. Like, people come at me all the time with the whole Eren is so pathetic in the final minutes of the series, and I'm like, yes, of course he is.
That's the point.
That's the point.
That's
Do you not get it? Yeah. Look, you're talking about a child who saw his mother get eaten right in front of him. You're talking about someone who's
that as well.
Yeah, he ended up having to choose that. So him coming across as a whiny, screaming, scared child at the end, this has been the case from the start. And now, not only this, but now he has the burden of having to seeing the past, present, and future all at the same time. You're talking about someone who can't pick without making a sacrifice somewhere. So now, yes, he comes across as a child, yes. But fundamentally speaking, this is the lot that he's been given. So if he doesn't make a move, the people in his life are the ones who are going to suffer. This is no justification for the people who were killed, of course. No justification for it. But we know where it comes from. And when there's no one to sit at the table anymore to entertain a conversation, at that point, and again, I am a pacifist, at that point, I can at least acknowledge at that point people are going to have to come to blows sometime. There's going to be someone coming to blows, and it's going to be either the people who are getting the stones tossed at them submitting, or them picking the stones up back and then throwing them back at the people who won't stop doing it. The reaction is going to have to cancel out sometime. And unless one side does something about it, it's never going to end. So in that sense, what we have here is someone who can very well pass for a villain in more ways than one. But what you have fundamentally is a hero that is pushed to their breaking point. So once they reach that breaking point, there's either two things that happens. They either maintain their morality all the way to the end, like Aang, or they do the unthinkable, like Eren.
Basically, they either stick to their morals or face moral degradation, and they go on their downfall usually. But that's assuming what type of story you're looking at, because some of them will look at their moral degradation and then run with it. Looking at you, Shield Hero. Not Shield Hero. Actually, no, people Shield Hero. Yeah, Jesus Christ, we're not going to talk about that. Those recent seasons have been abysmal. But anyway, also looking at you, Healer Hero. Jesus Christ! If you watch Healer Hero,
gosh,
you know.
I didn't see it, but I seen
if you know, you know.
I seen enough. I seen enough.
Yeah, if you see episode 1, you see the moral degradation that man has, and the series just runs with it.
Now I need healing. For real.
I know exactly. I haven't watched it. I've seen the clips of it. I know exactly what you're talking about. And
trust me, you've seen enough.
Video of the healer is utterly vile.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's pure edge. It's
literally.
If you're going to watch Healer Hero, you switch your brain off. You pretend that this shit isn't actually happening, and then you just watch it.
It's a guilty pleasure, but it's totally not a guilty pleasure.
But book a therapist first.
It's just pure degeneracy. It's great.
Yeah, I think.
Look up a therapist.
Then go for that.
Make sure you don't pick up too much degeneracy.
Yeah, because Shield Hero is something I have sort of railed on a bit.
Oh god, I've been shitting on the series ever since season 2.
I've just watched, because I think I've said, I've never been a fan of Neofumi. Even I didn't watch the full series 1. I've watched, I think, about 4 episodes. Yeah, I never really liked that guy.
It's funny. I think
simply because he just acts like and even watching the clips afterwards, he still just sort of acts like a bit of a child.
I mean,
at times.
He kind of is close to one. He's literally supposed to be 20.
And he just doesn't have any, and it's just he's also not a very compelling character. He's got nothing outside of the inciting incident, which is resolved in the first series. There's nothing really left. There's nothing left for him. He's not someone I want to follow. He's just, he's an isekai protagonist. That's
no, that's already one strike against him, unfortunately.
Yeah, that is pretty much all
he's ready to back foot.
I was gonna say.
He's born into
He's literally fired on backwards already.
He's ready failing. That's crazy.
And there's been the graveyard of the amount of really bland and terrible isekai protagonists is very, very long.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate just trait of any type of subgenre getting really popular. Unfortunately, it always gets filled with really mediocre things, but that's just how every genre is, to be honest. But I'd honestly say about Shield Hero. So I'm up to date with Shield Hero right now, and honest to God, yes, the series has gone downhill so quickly. Holy shit! Because I think that the writer realized that he got rid of his main villain, who, no matter how cartoonishly evil she comes across, did a pretty good job as the villain of the series.
Yeah.
And then they kind of neutralized her so early. He realized he had no idea what to do next. If you've seen season 2, you definitely know that things stop making sense really quickly.
I got bored of season 2 couple episodes in and just went into season 3.
Followed after. I've just seen the clips, so I've never.
Season 2 is
I don't
abysmal.
know the second series, but the second series just looks like a lot of nothing.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, it is. So they got the spirit turtle thing that's supposed to be an enemy. It's okay. I can't lie to you. If you want to watch Shield Hero, watch season 1 and then pretend it never continued. Same thing as Promised Neverland. Watch season 1. There was nothing after it. Same with Devil's a part-timer. Yeah. Season 1, no content came out after. Don't worry about it. The manga, the light novel, whatever source material, it finished there. There was no continuation. Because honest to God, Shield Hero declined so quickly in quality after season 1. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's like peak fiction or anything because it's
Philosophical,
not. But it's a very entertaining story for what it is because it doesn't actually have that much substance and it doesn't need it either, mind you. But I would definitely say it went downhill really fast because there were certain things that were clearly not very well thought through, especially when it came to the new enemies and the idea of having multiple worlds. Because having multiple worlds is something you can do a lot with.
Yeah,
I'm sure
but
you guys have
I
probably
do
spoken about
multiple.
something
Like
around
I
this.
literally write multiple worlds.
Yeah, you can do a lot of cool
No,
shit
you
with
can.
multiple
Yeah, you
worlds.
can do
This is
like a
why
lot. Like
Isekai is so popular. It's such a
yeah,
cool
so like I've
concept.
literally like
So much good
in
concepts, man,
Goddesses
just
Chosen, I've gone from a fantasy world to a sci-fi world. I was literally inspired by Halo Wars' shield installation, and then just throwing a bunch of stuff in it. And I've had like including stuff from like Destiny, like the my knockoff Fallen and Vax. I've just had so much fun just coming up with absolutely insane crap.
So I wanted to chime in just to kind of keep it on topic if we can.
Yeah.
It was
Sorry about
mostly
that.
no, you're cool. No, we're cool because since we brought up Shield Hero, I just thought it would be a good chance to just go just kind of go at it. So my experience with it is kind of limited because I've only watched like the first 3 episodes because I just was not getting into the series at all, like barely. So I mostly just wanted to ask. Now, Fumi's qualities as a hero, like, where do you think he falls short? Like, what kind of leads to you not finding him a compelling lead, basically?
For me personally, he just has absolutely like just like because I said I'm like you. I only watched like I didn't finish series 1, but I've just kept up with it through like watching clips on YouTube. The problem is like he just never comes off as like as interesting. Like he doesn't say or really do anything. And a lot of his dialogue just feels like it ranges from being noble to immature, and even though like I don't have a lot of context for it, but the flip-flopping just seems like he's two characters in one, and it's it seems like the writer just can't decide which one's the real him. So I don't know. He just feels like a character that was written that unintentionally has like an identity crisis that the writer just was never able to solve.
My thoughts in the Fumi is like first season for what he was dealt with. I'm like, okay, yeah, fair enough. And okay, yeah, like I agree. Like he does have this bit of a, how would you say? I don't want to be too thing, but he has a B side. He has a side where he gets a bit whiny. He does whine a bit.
Asshole.
And then,
I'm just gonna say asshole.
Yeah. And then, but like, I don't know. In my head, yeah, is like, yeah. Overall, I wouldn't say he's a great character, but if this is what I think they're going for, I can slightly get it, but I still think it's not good. But my thoughts are, the idea is, I think after the first season things got weak anyways, and second season I watched a couple of episodes and I literally just honestly got falling asleep watching the show, stop watching it. Third season's a bit better, but it's
gone downhill again. Just to let you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my
gosh. I actually at this point I'm kind of watching it. I'm kind of watching it because some of the stuff that happens is kind of hilarious. So, but like, okay, but to back to the previous character, because I can get a bit off topic. I feel like if there's anything this writer trying to go for, I do agree the thing that he's kind of lost the ball a bit. But if there's anything he's going for, is like his whininess and stuff is, I think it's meant to be, if it was me at least, it's meant to be his character arc of him trying to get other people to get along. Because I think the idea is he's been told, oh, if you don't get all your heroes together, like the shield hero, the spear hero, and the sword hero, if you're not all working together, I'm going to kill you or something like that. So he needs to actually get them together because it's going to be life or death, something like that. So in my head it's like, okay, well then he has to kind of get over, because obviously he has beef. He doesn't like any of them. essentially.
Yeah.
So if
A lot better. The others arenn't any better. If I'm
Oh,
honest.
they're terrible.
they fucking suck. Holy shit.
They're all just different versions of terrible and art. It's just all of them are just dumb. Like you watching season 3 in it, and you see the spare guy, and just like, what is? Oh my gosh, bro!
No.
Gosh.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Every single time I think about this fucking anime, it makes me want to die. Please. No, they're literally just three morons, okay? These people are useless. All of them. So, okay, I doubt any of you are going to continue watching this show, so I am going to spoil you a bit on what's recently happened.
Because they are funny. Because some of them are
Oh,
funny.
yeah. Definitely do that. So basically what happens is that it's season 2, one of the sword hero, I think his name's Aden. So he turns around, gets his whole team fucking dies, right? His whole team dies, and he turns around, and then do you remember the main villain from before, Mine?
Yeah, she.
So after the trial in season 1, she gets like renamed bitch and slut and shit.
Yeah,
whatever.
I saw that.
Everyone knows that.
Yeah,
they turn around, and he was there for the trial, and he was also there for when Raftalia had her whole thing where Motoyasu essentially tries to free her from slavery. This is a fucking mess. Anyway, he tries to free her from slavery, but she doesn't actually want to be freed. I know, I'm saying it out loud, it sounds so dumb, but anyway, she doesn't want to be freed because this is her singular bond with Naofumi, even though she could be a party member without being a fucking slave. But anyway, so he was also there for that. And when that whole thing happened, Raftalia's slave crest was gotten rid of when Naofumi lost. And by lost, I mean that the girl who is now called Bitch literally interfered and fucked the match up. So, literal cheated. But the crest got dissolved. So, everyone knows, because they were all there, that these slave crests disappear when they're taken out, right? But otherwise, they're always visible. So, this woman gets a slave crest put on her by her mum during the trial, and she has it on her chest. And now she's somehow gotten rid of it.
Yeah,
but for some reason, these stupid ass heroes turn around, see that she doesn't have a slave crest on her chest anymore, and assume that she's telling the truth because it was like an anti-lying thing, despite the fact that it's not on her fucking chest, so she doesn't have it. But anyway, that's having to say. All of these 3 heroes are morons. Motoyasu, stupid as fuck. Then, dumb as fuck. Itsuki, moronic. They're all useless. They constantly have these levels of incompetency throughout the entire show in season 1 and season 2. But in season 1, they have these things. It's all baited out. They're all told, okay, these are the things you all did to fuck up. Can you improve now? And they're all like, yeah, we're going to improve. Season 2, they get captured by a fucking turtle, and they stay in that turtle for the entire season. And in season 3, they're up to their moronic antics again. So all I'm going to say is, don't fucking watch this show after season 1.
So
it is painful. But also the fact is that they're all called heroes, and I think that's very interesting because even though they're all painfully incompetent, they're all painfully useless to even the people in their own world, because then literally got kicked out of some random woman's house when he was running away from people trying to kill him last episode. Anyway,
so what we can
even the people in his world don't consider him a hero, but he is still called a hero in the show. And I'm just gonna say, this is proof that hero is a very flexible term, because even those people have to call them heroes by force.
So what we have mostly in this situation kind of just boils down to competency and just
oh boy. Yeah.
Let's see, competency.
I would say that competency isn't relevant to make someone a hero. You can be a hero and still be incompetent.
But it seems like a lot of the frustration with these characters is just the fact that they're not very bright, or they're just woefully incompetent. I mean, it's not.
It's woefully.
Yeah.
My problem is that they're just like. I think this is an issue really with just this series in general. They're just so badly written that
they're just extremely immature.
It's so hard to.
They're just nothing. That's what
it just doesn't make sense.
It's so immature to the most 18th level. Like I saw some part, and the sword hero must come to him, and then he realized, oh, you lost your party. That's rough, and he's trying to. I think he was trying to console him. Oh, it's all your fault. Like, nigga, what? Like, can you hold your L and learn from it, please? Like, oh my gosh!
You're asking for a little too much for these people.
No, I'm telling you, it's just a badly written series. I can't lie.
They're showing one. She literally robbed him of everything he had.
They are sharing one.
Yeah, and she literally gave him a note and was like, "You're literally useless, bro. Thank you for all your shit. Bye."
Yeah,
which is like he did deserve it, to be honest.
Yeah,
but it's just it's actually like comedic how bad the writing has gotten to the point where we see this shit and we're like, oh, just another day in Shield hero.
Like
it's painful.
Yeah, I'm watching it. I don't have to pause sometimes. I literally just rant for a minute before I continue. Or just laugh. Like just the whole thing, like you said, like he got this Shield, the spare hero got ditched by his party because he was just a loser in it. Like, let's be real. He's just acting like a dumb. And
they all chose death over him.
Yeah, and he's all begging for
They all chose death over him. They're dead ass.
Yeah, and literally, and then he's all depressed, yeah. And the next thing you know, he sees like the I don't know, Philo or that chick dancing, and next thing he's the #1 fan of the whole universe. I was just like, where is the switch for this? You just literally like.
Bro, that's not even the worst part. This guy's an actual nonce. He turns around to Nell for me, and he's like, my father-in-law." I'm like,
what? It is. Exactly.
They made it.
Yeah, I'm thinking this is the guy you literally fought. Accused of being a slave trader, fought to the death.
Oh my god!
And now you're calling him father, so you can marry his literal child slave, who is like 3 days old at this point.
Oh my god!
What the hell?
I know. I had
anyway, so yeah, let's just say that series went downhill.
Yeah.
I'm still watching it right now. But I'm watching it simply because of like time investment fallacy at this point. I spent a bit too much time watching this to not know the end of the season. Anywho, I'm so sorry. We went like so far off topic, but I just needed to rant about this series because it's been driving me up the wall.
Don't worry, don't run on Strike the Blood. Don't worry.
Yes, Senpai, this is our fight.
No, that line. I hate that line. It's that line. I hate that line.
We witnessing PTSD live right here. Oh my gosh, yeah.
No, I watched 6 episodes of that show. I almost ripped my hair out. I actually couldn't. Every single time she stopped the fight and she would say, I was like, please don't do this to me.
19 episodes.
90.
And I read
90.
You're
built different. I could never.
Wow. Like my condolences, man.
No, you should be knighted for that.
Yeah, because I think the point with my point with Shield Hero is simply it's not a matter of can they be boiled down to like a good or bad hero. It's just that they are not well written to begin with.
They're not well written characters, mostly above all else. That's the heart of the problem, from what I can glean here.
Because like I said, that's why I did not like Neofumi to begin with, and I still don't like him. Because as I said, he's just the way he was written is just it doesn't seem like the writer has made up his mind of how he's supposed to act.
Yeah, it is very, very, very hard. I mean, just getting by the quality of the writing around the other characters, that's very more likely the case. I think what I was saying before is like if there was a reason, he still flubbed at this. But if there was a reason, it would be that because he doesn't get along with these characters, and he's got some issues with like how he conducts himself. Anyways,
he
has to. Try
I've got my own issues.
He has to try to overcome. He has
to
try to overcome that. He has to try to overcome that to actually get them together. That's how I imagine if there was a reason, but it probably isn't at this point. It's just like just terrible. But it's hilarious to watch. So I'm gonna stay with it. But,
I could probably do it. I could probably do without, really, because I just never thought that show was pleasant to do on from the get go. Like the setup could have been interesting for me. The only thing that was really not the only thing. There's a lot of other factors that got in the way of it, but I just could not, for the life of me, begin to care one iota about the character, even if he got himself in the situation that he was in. I didn't have anything to latch onto other than, man, your position is pretty tough.
You spent about 10 minutes with him. Of course not.
Exactly. And the thing is that you can still make it work. Like, because the way how I see it, listen, if Star Wars Visions can get me to care about their characters, these one-off characters that I'm never going to see again in any property in less than like 3 minutes, Shield Hero has no excuse.
Yeah.
It has
like, no, actually,
That's true.
Gintama does this, does this constantly. There are all these like one-shot characters that sometimes literally are just there for a single episode, and some of them are like not only range from being hilariously funny to somewhat like some of the best written characters I've seen in an anime. And this is a series that is very difficult. It's one of my favorite animes of all time. It's one that's very difficult to describe because even in the manga, it is does seem to be whatever Sorichi was thinking of at that moment. But when he does like takes his shit seriously, it is has some of the best characterization I've ever seen, even for some like joke characters. Like I think my favorite one's Princess Queen Otahime from I don't know what, I think it was their Ryuga Palace arc, which was like a joke arc where there was this woman who wanted to turn everyone old, and she did that to both Gintoki and Katsura. But there was actually it actually went into the reasons behind it, and actually like ended up being very touching. And the actual ending of that small arc was actually very heartwarming. And as I said, just from what I've said, this is a joke. It's a joke arc. Like the beginning of it is literally just the setup is basically Euros on the beach and get invited by I think a turtle man, and they end up in the middle of the who says he's the only one who can take them to Ryuga Palace, and then he winds up with two other turtle men taking Otsu and Kagura, and then you have Katsura flying onto turtles going to somewhere completely different.
Yeah,
Oh god, like I said, Gintama is so difficult to describe.
Yeah.
But my
It's a
god,
lot.
like if you
I
want
think
well-written well-written characters, like even like what we're talking about, I think Gintama is honestly one of the best examples I can think of.
yeah, I haven't gone through it fully, Gintama, but what I've always noticed about him, I think what makes it so resonate so well is, okay, one, the guy who writes is a good writer. Two, I think I think comedy is the opposite. Is like the flip coin. Is like on the flip side of comedy is tragedy, as we know. So then, when you have a story where it can be so lighthearted and so you have this and then when it dips into
and then
the
you
tragedy
have this
and the serious stuff, it can just not only, especially with if he's writing it, because he's a good writer as well. I've seen it. I can totally tell he's a really good writer.
Yeah, I think one really good character is the Shogun in that series, because like every episode he's into, he's always made to look like this. He's mainly humiliated in every episode, but he always just drawn to be look so dignified. And I won't spoil what happens to him, but one specific moment honestly made me cry because of, and this was a character who was constantly like being sort of humiliated.
And so the reason I think is really interesting about like with the Gintama, and how the comedy tragedy sort of flip, like going between them, makes the punchier things more punchier is. Now, if you try to imagine everything you watch in Gintama with just only all the serious parts, like it will probably be good, yeah, but would it hit as hard?
Yeah, it will be good, but you will miss out on sort of like just the character, all the character development.
Yeah, like even if they kept
in some of the stupid things.
Yeah, like even if they kept in all that like some character aspects you need to know about them, but made it more serious, you still got the context of it with just but this time it ain't funny. It probably will still be good, but I don't think it would hit as hard because the range of comedy to tragedy ain't as wide because it's been more serious pretty much all the time. So because good story kind of it ebbs and flows between you know, the happy moments and the sad moments, because then you have contrast. If it's always going to be serious, you get numb to it. If it's always going to be comedy, you can get numb to that. You'll get more used to that too. So having
because life is
between them makes it so good.
Yeah, because life is but a series of moments, and not all those moments are happy. Not all those moments are sad. There's like life has a richer shape to that. Now, granted, most stories don't have to conform to that. I mean, a story can be funny all the way through, but it is easy to get complacent when the rhythm sets in for a while. That's why those big moments when there are massive tonal shifts hit so much. And at that point, that's when the fundamental nature of the story ends up changing too. So, and that's in that regard. Like I said, I have not actually watched Gintama yet, so my perspective on it is a bit limited. But the fact that it does have variety like that does make it interesting.
Yeah, I will say, like, if you ever get the chance to watch Gintama, because it still stands as like one of my favorite shonen animes of all time.
Yeah, I've been meaning to. It's just not. It's been. I think the further away I get from where it originally was, the original anime, it just gets harder for me to watch, because then I have to put in time for it, and then it's rough. And I remember I tried to watch it.
A bit of a time investment.
I tried to watch it at least probably like 8-9 years ago, and I was like, this is a bit thing. I'm not sure how I feel about it now. I did try to go straight into like one of the, because they start having smaller arcs that were a bit more.
Yeah, they had like, because it's a mixture of like the comedy, but then you have some of them then have like the major arcs. First one being the Benzekura arc. Like that arc specifically would not hit as hard as wouldn't hit as hard as it would if you hadn't had like the sort of like get to know the characters around it, and also like get to know like Eurozia and their sort of very complicated relationships with the people around them. So the Katsura, for example, or Zura, who just sort of just shows up from time to time. Like you wouldn't understand why they would go to such lengths for Zura if like you didn't have that context.
Just it. Yeah, it wouldn't hit as hard. Yeah, definitely. I don't know. I'll see. Well, at some point. But, cool.
So do we have anything more to add on the topic, just in case?
Okay, yeah.
I have something that is like probably going to take us back like an hour ago in terms of time.
Oh, sure.
But if you guys are cool for it,
I'm cool for it.
So I was just gonna say. No, go on.
Oh no! I was just gonna say because I was either gonna close this up and see if you want to go into another topic. But if there's something you think we can extrapolate from here, then go for it. I don't mind.
It was just more about like the hero thing. About like what is a hero and stuff. I was just gonna say that I feel. One anime that I feel like actually approached it really interestingly is one of the most popular out there, but Hunter x Hunter. So during the arc especially, you know how we kind of have like how Killua and Gon end up going in complete opposite directions.
Yeah.
The fact that Killua becomes more like traditionally at least heroic during the time, especially when he comes to that realization that he actually needs Gon. Gon is kind of his sunlight, which like don't want to upset anyone, but there's some like kind of almost kind of both platonic and also romantic kind of tones to when he says that. I don't know how to explain it without making it sound kind of weird considering they're both kids, but you can understand what I'm getting at.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, but like the idea that like kind of Killua comes to this realization that he needs Gon in his life and that he really appreciates him and that he's literally willing to basically march into death for him. And he comes to kind of this big-ass realization, especially when he has that moment when he rips Illumi's needle from his forehead. Meanwhile, with Gon, he goes through this kind of moral degradation where he becomes more and more unhinged throughout, especially after Kite's death. And the moment that he is confronted with Pitou and chooses the idea of completely destroying Pitou over having a future at all, which I thought was just insane because it's just like, when someone reaches the point of loss and grief, and especially when they've just had that much tragedy, especially when it's someone who is essentially their only link to childhood, because that's basically who Kai is. Because yes, Mito is there, but she's not there with him. And losing Kai is like losing his dad, because Kai, well, is essentially his dad, because fuck Ging. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's just the idea that watching Gon morally degrade and then watching Killua morally upgrade, I guess you could say, was such an interesting parallel, especially the fact that they're basically both mirrors and also like halves to each other.
Yeah,
So I was just
that
going to
King and
say
that
that
brother for
I
him.
really like
Yeah,
it when
that-
series do that with the characters and essentially show you like this
Yeah. What?
kid, Gon, always had the potential to do this. There are multiple characters
Oh yeah.
through arcs before
Yeah.
Kimura and arc who point this out.
Yeah.
I
I
don't know
think
if you
also
guys
like
remember, but during York New,
yeah,
when they had the whole auction, the guy who helped them with the auction, sorry, it's been a while, but I can't remember his name. But the guy who helped them essentially figure out about how to find real artifacts against faked ones, he looks at Gon and goes, it's, "This kid has some really fucking weird morality."
Yeah. There's
And then
also
we also see during
sorry.
the during Greed
Read up.
Island where he
Yeah,
turns
because
around
his fight
and
with
so during
I
Greed
was gonna
Island
bring it up.
he's
His fight
literally
with
fighting against this murderer with
Ketharu.
scissors and shit.
Yeah.
Biscay
There's
turns around, he's like, "This guy has killed loads of people," and
Okay, good fight.
Killer was like, "Okay, this guy's fucking weird," and Gon goes, "You gave me a good fight. I'm not going to touch you," and even the murderer is so taken aback by the insanity it is to say that when you know that someone is, you know, a well-known murderer. He literally tried to kill you, and that you're going to let him go because he helped you get stronger. Like, that's an insane take.
There's al-
I love the approach of like what
yeah.
heroism is in Hunter x Hunter,
Yeah,
because
I was
it's
also
so
gonna bring
interesting
up
watching their development go in
Oh,
different directions.
oh,
I was
sorry,
gonna
go on,
bring
yeah.
up in sticking on Greed Island, Gether, the main antagonist of that arc, Getheru, when
bomb
Gon
guy.
fought him to the point where like even
Oh,
though like
Gensri,
Gon
yeah,
got
he
his
was
ass
awful.
kicked, he like his attitude and especially like that where he sacrificed his own hand just to land a blow was just enough for Getheru to say, "What the heck is wrong with this kid?"
Yeah,
He's
he's so
not built
self-destructive
correct.
through his heroism. It's actually kind of weird.
Yeah, because like
not
his
built
fight
correct,
with
man.
like Getheru, you can't argue it being like a heroic struggle. It just it just looks like an utter like an absolutely like Gon's just being utterly stupid and suicidal, and that was like exactly what Getheru was thinking throughout that fight. With it at the end saying, "Just what the heck is wrong with this kid?"
Literally, there's like saving your friends, and then there's willing to die for it, and like
Yeah, and
that
then there's
disparity
thing
is.
like
No, I think what makes it even
I think
crazier is
my favorite part is
they had a plan. They actually had a plan to follow that would have worked, but he decided,
and,
no,
Gon didn't
I'm gonna
follow it.
1v1 you for a second, then force back the plan, which could have fell apart anyway. So this guy, not only did he just
He just wanted to throw hands.
Yeah, he was even risking his life at this point. He was just being downright suicidal, stupid. Like he had a plan that he could fall back to, and it would have worked anyways. But no, he wanted to try his strength, and that's what he got.
Yeah, there's also like my favorite scene in like Chimera Ant arc is actually one of my favorite scenes is when Gon and Killua confront Pitu.
Is this when she's healing? This is when she's healing Komugi, isn't it?
Not Komugi.
Yeah, Komugi, and where she's like begging him, "Please let me. My king ordered me to heal her. Please let me do that. Then I will do whatever you want." And it was Killua who basically tried his best to calm Gon's down, saying, "She's unarmed, and that girl was that was Grandpa's attack. So we are kind of responsible for what happened to her." And Gon was like, "So," and which sort of in the end, like he barely, like even after like Pitu intentionally broke her arm, just just to show how serious she was.
Mhm.
Or he, I don't get it.
Yeah, it's left,
It's
it's left
fine.
ambiguous for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think
Yeah, I mean, she's literally an
John's
ant. Like, don't worry about it.
He just, where he holds his hand off, not because, like, he had, like, a moral change of heart, but just because, alright, I'll play it your way, but then I will kill you afterwards. Which is exactly what he did when he bought, like, yeah, so I think it's what something Eye Patch Wolf calls the reverse Super Saiyan,
Yeah.
where to, like, I do believe, like, he was going to honor their agreement, and when he saw Kai, he said, "Don, I'm gonna be. Thank you for letting me heal Kamui. So I'm gonna be honest. He's dead. He's been dead. I recognize him. I killed him. I put his body back. But all I've done is animated his body. Like, I didn't. Whoever he was before is long gone." Which was what pushed Gon completely over the edge. And it's what, like, the anime, because I read both the manga and watched the anime. The anime did that scene so well compared to the manga.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think
I mean, it's because they kind of alternated between his panic and also his, like, you know, he was going through denial at the time. You literally saw him going, screaming to himself, muttering to himself, going like,
Yeah,
"No, he's still alive. No, he's still alive. No, you killed him. How dare you take him from me?" But at the same time, it's like, no, like, I've just lost Kite. He's going through some of the most
many emotions.
extreme stages of grief all at once. He's literally going through bargaining and then sadness and then going straight to anger, and he's snapping between all three of these at the same time. Like, it's no wonder that he breaks apart because he doesn't know how to feel. He's been grieving this whole time and he didn't even realize himself. So it kind of all culminated in that moment where he kind of had a little bit of a superpowered evil side kind of moment where he essentially just he gives up. He chooses destruction. He gives up his future if it means that he can destroy what stole what he loved from him.
Yeah. And also, it's interesting we mentioned because I've heard about Super Eye Patch Wolf when you mentioned the dark, the dark Super
Yeah, the
Saiyan,
reverse Super Saiyan,
yeah.
he called it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because what typically happens with both Super Saiyans is when they powered up, it's for like a righteous reason, and it's more to like, I'm gonna stop this guy from hurting anyone else. This is it. I'm through with you, sort of thing. It's usually, and it's represented as like this almost angelic thing because it's like this bright light and all this stuff in it. Whereas Gon is like so it's really,
the opposite.
really aptly put. Where it's like the reverse, where it's like it's not even like I'm doing this for the like because it's just
It's not for like it's not for a
this.
virtuous reason or anything.
Yeah, it's just
because he just wants to destroy Pitu.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just
and he sacrifices literally everything.
Yeah, that's it.
To make sure he does that, and he destroys her in the most brutal way possible.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. It was crazy. Yeah, the anime is so well.
Literally brutalizes her corpse. Like, that thing was moving without a head, and he still destroyed it.
It just kept punching over and over. That's crazy, bro. Oh my gosh, yeah.
No, literally, like punching. He lost his arm and continued. Like, that shit's metal as fuck.
Yeah, that's crazy.
There is no better way to. One of my favorite things about Shonen is how they show moral degradation in all of our characters. For example, with Ichigo and Naruto, because I don't think it happens with Luffy. But with those two, obviously they both kind of got demons inside of them. So for them, their moral degradation comes out through their demons rather than directly through themselves. But when they have theirs, you see their reactions to when they get out of it, and it's always quite interesting.
Yeah,
so obviously, with
my favorite
Bleach,
one
the most well-known one is the one when he sits there and is just destroying all Kyoto, and the moment he realized what he did to him, he's like, you can cut off my arm, and it's like, you can't heal that back, Ichigo. If you cut off your arm, it's gone. Like, bro, this is not the time for equality. This is not the time. Like, this guy is literally withering right now. Literally one of my favorite fights ever. I literally have a hoodie.
I love the final fight. Obviously, Bleach absolutely has its problems, but it's like I will always have a soft spot for Bleach, and I always loved like the sort of duality between it. Well, I wouldn't say duality, but the conflict between Ichigo and Ulquiorra.
Yeah,
That's one of my favorite
Yeah.
rivalries in.
I
Love
love
that shit.
Ulquiorra, man. But when I was young,
Like,
Ulquiorra was like
yeah,
my
it's what I
my
love
alter
about
ego,
Bleach
but
is like
low-key
a lot of
was-
these characters.
He was
will just
literally my
show up for a
PFP on
few-
Wattpad for like
Yeah, it
6
wasn't
years.
it? Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
a lot of these characters will just show up for like a few chapters, but like they and it's a testament to Type Kubo's like character designs. They always look striking. They look cool.
They look clean as
They look
clean AF,
chic.
man.
And they've just got enough
He's
of
just
them
the definition. He's just the
like, have
definition
a
of rule of
real
cool.
stay in your head.
Yeah, they got, as the kids would say, they got drip.
Yeah, even the Fullbringers. I know a lot of people don't like the Fullbringers, but I love those guys.
No, they
Yeah,
were
they
dripped
cool.
out.
They were cool, bro.
Yeah, and like
Kubo always
the
they just
fashion
look so
of
dripped out, bro.
The fashion of the
All the time.
Fullbrings, like proper.
All I'm saying is, if he
Tokyo
opens a
fashion.
clothesline, I'm gonna be fucking poor.
Yeah, I'm checking that. I can't lie. Like 100% checking that. Like he was cool with it, man. Like
We need him to start clothesline right now.
Yeah, like Tsugashima, like Tsukushima's like outfit with like the like open button shirt, suspenders.
He's so
like,
dapper.
He looks so classy.
So Kubo, if you
I
heard
can't
that,
lie,
get
it was
that,
just-
get that.
Oh, I'm gonna have to dip for a bit. It's about it's time for me to have dinner. Probably gonna be going out for a movie in a couple, so I'm just gonna dip out for a
have
little
fun.
bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, good talking.
Sips.
to you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Alright.
No. Remember, Nate's the host. I'm just,
Hey, no. You had us, man. You had us. You were literally like carrying this conversation. So trust me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, I'll be in DMs if anyone needs me. See you in a moment.
Alright,
Yeah.
take care. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Bye.
Bleach is really interesting. I think
Yeah,
honestly,
like I
beyond-
honestly like won't pretend like Bleach has its issues because I think like because sorry to go back to Shield Hero, but I think because like Ichigo, like I will never argue is a great protagonist because I do have a soft spot for like reactionary protagonists, but you never really.
He's a
Ichigo,
bit
like,
too
it's always
reactionary,
hard to
really.
tell what he's fighting for.
Yeah.
At the very least, like, he's written to be cool.
I do
He has his
feel that a lot of
moments.
I do feel I'm this is still, I wouldn't say this solves the problem. I do feel like at least Kubo, or maybe Kubo's
Yeah, I think
maybe
he at
he's
least,
aware
like,
of
at some
it.
point
He's
acknowledged.
aware of it because it always comes up and it always becomes like his main crux why he can't get into gear and kick the guy's ass. Because think about this, yeah, in the Soul Society arc, bro, my guy went through the Chadder's arc involvement ever, bro. Like learning Bonkai in what, how many days? This and going,
I think he learned it in about a week or
a
so.
week, some
I think it was
some crazy.
actually. I think it was 4 days. I think it was 4 days.
3 days. I'm
'cause
pretty sure it was even
it
days.
was
Yeah,
I just can't remember because I think he was in accelerated time, wasn't he?
maybe.
No, not that
I
time.
don't know.
Not that time. It
Oh,
was
okay.
accelerated time in
Oh,
learning
Hukamondo
the final
before
Getsuga.
to yeah. That was definitely for that. Yeah, but like
Ah, okay, yeah.
yeah, like he for the whole Soul Society arc, all the stuff he did, and just like he reached the level of Bonkai, could fight a captain, and it's like, whoa, he's on that level, right? Then he goes straight into Aranka arc. Oh, to be fair, okay, I give him slight thing. He had a whole problem with the Hollow, and it was hinted to in even his fight against Byakuya. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But bro, just like he just, I guess Irokuroa says it himself as well. Like his power spikes, and when it spikes, it's up there with me even stronger. But then when it isn't, he's just kind of a dud. And it's just
it's also something like it was actually like because I do think it's definitely something Kubo was aware of because
it is where yeah.
I think my favorite one was Grimjow, and he was fighting
yeah.
Grimjow. He said, "What are you here for?" I said, "I'm here to rescue Oribe." He said, "No, that's not true. You are here because you want to be, because you love to fight. That's the only reason you're here." So it's definitely like moments where like I feel Kubo definitely knew.
Trying to instill character development.
Yeah,
into
trying to
him.
like say, okay, I think,
Why does he not figure?
okay, how do, like, yeah. Sometimes it did feel like it was grasping at straws a bit, but
Yeah.
but yeah, like what I will never ever
I would love
argue.
Bleach. Yeah.
Yeah, I will never argue Bleach what is the best in terms of a narrative, but it certainly didn't piss me off as much as Naruto ended up doing.
Oh yeah.
Don't get me started on Naruto. All I'll say is the Child of Destiny thing ruined the entire show for me.
The war arc was.
specifically
Oh my gosh! What was that?
the war ended up just pretty much the war ended up destroying it for me.
I think the war ruined a lot of it, but I feel like the Child of Destiny thing pissed me off more because it kind of got rid of the entire message of like genius vs hard work. They basically just threw it all down the toilet, and they were like, "What if you were a genius and you were born with a silver spoon? Not even silver, platinum fucking spoon in your mouth. Oh, and by the way, your parents are like ninja gods. Okay, nice to know I'm on the same playing field as that guy."
And then Boruto happens.
Oh god! Oh my god!
And
Actually, I had another
fucking stage of 6 paths and everything.
Yeah,
and I could rant and rave about.
We'll
Boruto.
definitely do a topic about next generation, like dealing with next generation.
Yeah, I think that's like a perfect.
Yeah.
Oh god, I have so much to say about next gen.
I'll save my unconditioned Boruto rant for next generation talks.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
Hey, but bring the next generation talk forward. Okay, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely. I'll definitely. Like, I was actually, if we had time, I was gonna do it now, but we'll definitely do it next time. But
yeah, probably next time because I think
definitely.
it's gonna be a long discussion.
Yeah,
because I was gonna say I'm gonna be talking a lot about Four Nights of Apocalypse because that's the one I'm up to date with right now. If you're wondering what it's the next gen of, it's next gen of Seven Deadly Sins. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, actually, I think we talked. We talked.
I dropped out of Seven Deadly Sins.
I think so. Yeah.
I actually had one that I think was Cobra Kai. I think would be my.
I need to watch
the next
Cobra
generation
Kai.
story.
I think it's on YouTube. I think I've seen something on YouTube years ago. I need to watch that. Everyone
it has some.
keeps coming across.
Like,
there's always one.
Yeah, I'm gonna save that. I think I've mentioned it on the podcast at one point, but I'm gonna save it for when we do next generation talk because I think that is perfect next generation story I've seen.
Are any of you guys like Tekken fans? I heard that Tekken did the next gen thing quite well as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying I heard because I'm not really a fan of Tekken, so I'm not really.
Yeah, I'm not.
Tekken is in the fight. Yeah, I'm not a Tekken fan.
Okay.
I'm a Guilty
it's very
Gear
recently.
fan. That's pretty much only fighting.
I'm not sure what it was. I just remember hearing that because I was watching something about people talking about next gen media, especially with how you handle next gen without making the old gen either obsolete or ridiculously overpowered, but without agency for whatever reason. And I think they mentioned that Tekken was a really good example. I remember them talking through it, and I was like, that is actually a really interesting take. But then I was like, I don't know enough about the series to talk about it, so yeah.
I all I know there was the father or something threw his son into a volcano. I mean that is if that ain't love and tender care, I don't know what is, because that was beautiful.
Father of the Year.
It put a tear in my eye.
Show Tucker ain't got nothing on him.
So heartwarming, very very heartwarming. But so beyond that, I'm not sure if there's another generation after that. I don't know. But that's interesting. I'll probably see if I can.
Yeah, probably. Save it for like when we have like a when we do for the next podcast because I think that's a topic that we could especially like kites.
Have we actually got that on the topic list, by the way?
I actually had it on the topic list. I was actually looking at it for the next one, but we'll definitely do it next time because it does need like space.
Yeah, we need.
So I was gonna say, please don't do it next week because I'm gonna be busy next week and I need to be here for that.
All right, bet yeah. Well, I'll hold on to it. We'll try and get you on for it and that stuff definitely.
Because I got so much to say about Seven Deadly Sins. I need the world to hear it,
They must know the truth. I think like it's I don't know, don't get too much, but yeah, like it been thinking about the whole next generation thing because I do know it's something I might do. Actually, I don't know. I have things kind of in my head that I would want to do for my story if I were to go down it. And I just thought at least one thing I learned from watching them. We'll get more detail when we go for it. But one thing I learned from is like, well, if you're going to do it, have at least a plan for it early as possible. So there's no harm at least having something in mind. So you're not just like, oh, stories end. Oh, next generation. It's like, well, maybe end.
So you don't end up with the Boruto anime.
Yeah.
Sound like a lot of salt there. Yeah. Hey, are you telling me you don't want to watch Sasuke fight a dinosaur?
I always, when I was free playing with toys, I always had a Sasuke. Always had my Sasuke doll fight a T-Rex. So I'm just glad they made it to anime. I'm so glad my random toys I had, peak fiction, honestly, yeah. But,
peak fiction, honestly, that is actually one of the most hilarious fillers I've ever heard in my life. Holy shit!
The more I hear about it, I'm like, dude, really? Someone sat there, wrote this. Another person watched it and edited and agreed and put this on show. Really?
Actually, heck,
imagine being one of the animators employed to draw a dinosaur fight in Sasuke. You're getting paid like £3 a day, and they're making you draw this. I'd be so pissed.
It's rough, man.
Hold on, I want to find that fight because there's a fight in Boruto that I think is a perfect example of how awful it is.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's terrible. The movie that came straight afterwards was alright.
The movie was fine. Yeah, the movie was fine. It was just
the Sarah the Gaiden one was good. And should I tell you what they both had in common? Both of them were written by Kishimoto.
What?
That's it. That's all I've got to say.
There's some fighting words.
Yeah, the 2 times it was alright was when it was written by the creator. The rest is just corporate writers in the background. That's it. I said what I said, bro.
I would agree to this, but the end of Naruto was arse, and I know that he wrote that.
Yeah. But in my head, I mean, I definitely agree. But imagine if the corporate people wrote that as well, it'd be worse. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that is what Boruto is.
I'm not saying the Boruto movie.
Anyway.
I'm not trying to say the Boruto movie and the Side of Gaiden is peak fiction, but it was better than what we have, which is bottom of the barrel. Actually, it's not even bottom of the barrel. If it needs bottom of the barrel, that's like Shield Hero. I can have a laugh at it. It is the perfect definition of mid. I think I said this before. If I think about the perfect 5 show, bland toast show, it is Boruto. It's a perfect 5, and that makes it the worst show in the world. That's it.
Yeah.
One show is
a perfect 5.
Perfect 5.
I think
Alright, guys, so this has been episode 18 of the Lounge Podcast. Thank you for joining, and thank you guys for taking part. Obviously, it was really good fun. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.